Hello! Today's Japanese tip, advice and sequence.
Is it なら or たら？メインシーム1、なら、相手の話を受けて、アドバイス。If it's the case, speaking of, example 1、preference、日本料理ならお寿司が一番好きです。
If we're talking about Japanese food, I like sushi best.
Example 2、recommendation、パソコンを買うならこれがいいですよ。If you're going to buy a PC, this one is good. メインシーム2、たら、何かが起きた後のこと。Once after, one thing after another. Example 3, notification. メールが来たら教えてください。Once the email comes, please let me know. Example 4, next action. 映画が終わったらご飯を食べましょう。After the movie finishes, let's eat. Remember, なら providing info advice based on a topic. If that's the case, たら sequence of events. Once A happens, then B.
Save this for your Japanese study. See you next time.
また明日。